change, especially touching urban informal settlements. And so, just as my other friend said, tomorrow we'll have the biggest climate strike, and this is one way that we want to see how the governments and other institutions will respond. People are taking young people not serious in this agenda, and so I won't take much of your time, but I want all of us to go home taking climate action seriously. Asante.
It's not for Mr. Geoffrey. Thank you. I am fascinated by that young man. By the way, who remembers his second name? Who remembers? Geoffrey, you can shift. This table is yours. Shift with your luggage. Come over here. Who remembers his second name? Who kwa TV live? Who remembers his second name? You remember, sir? Shout it from there. Just put off the mask. We are vaccinated. Boya, come over here. We don't have time and we want. Very fast. You are young, I can believe. Okay, you might be younger than you, you are still young. So, thank you so much. We don't have time. We want every personnel who is going extra mile to make sure. Come over here, I'm running on television. And on behalf of We Don't Have Time, Mr. Pira, kuja hapa. Kuja upatie zawadi. Kuja. Madije, cheza tuko sawa. Sio hiyo, ile serious. Yes, thank you. Mr. Peter, nakupa hii fursa umpatie hiyo gift. Mpatie, tumia hiyo mic yako.
So, okay. He has won himself. Guess how much? Guess how much? 500. Or pesa moja. Have it.
Kuja kwanza. Hatuwezi fanya kitu kienyeji. We are international summit. Can you salamia him and watu wa picha? Yes. Thank you. So what's your name? Thank you. Tell us your name. What's your name?
My name is Timothy.
Nebwa, what do you do?
I'm a data analyst, and also I am passionate with data tech.
Wow, thank you so much. Umepewa gift. Smile. Oh, thank you so much for laughing at that. And that's how we do it. The next participants, Benson, Kate, Kaleche, Amina, your gift is coming next. Right now, allow me to invite Mr. Professor Jerry. Where are you, sir? Professor Jerry? Hello? Kuna professor wadogo hivi. Nilikuwa na moja ndio white. Karibu sana. Madije, muziki ni ya professor. Wala.
It's good to see you all here. I'm Kevin Jero. I'm a computer scientist because I actually did my master's in computer science. But my research was so much on environment because I did on green computing. Now, I've been given 3 minutes and I hope to utilize them well. And I think because I'm an academician, I'll talk much more, maybe academic. Now, I think one of the biggest challenges, and I think most of us still face the same here, is understanding what is this global warming, or why are we making it a big focus of warranting international attention to it. Now, one of the things that we need to understand is that you see, the world is like a dome. So nothing comes in, nothing goes out. Now, within this dome, the amount of carbon that we have, everything that we have is actually made of carbon. The amount of carbon that we have in there, in the world, is around 65 billion 500 cubic meters or something within that, the various elements that we have making up the universe, each of them has a given amount of carbon that it is consists of. For example, I think it's the ocean and the, what do you call it? Just under the ocean, something, there's a name that I can't remember. It holds the highest amount of carbon at around 35 billion cubic meters of the same. We have the atmosphere, which has about 800 million cubic meters. And we have, not 800, yeah, 800 million. And we have the surface of the ocean that has about 1 billion cubic meters of that. Now, the challenge that the world faces today, the problem is created when maybe we release too much carbon to the atmosphere from the other elements that hold the carbon. So that, for example, by burning hydrocarbons, that is the fossil fuels, which are definitely done from the ground, we are releasing much more carbon that is stored from down there to the surface of the earth. When that happens, a problem is created, and that is what we refer to as global warming. And global warming, the next thing that happens because of global warming is maybe too heavy torrential rains, or too much rain. That is still, that you hear about things like flash floods and offers. And today that is one of the single biggest problems that we face because of human activities. Because as population has grown, demand for more maybe resources for housing, transport has gone up. And therefore what we are forced to do is in the strive to meet these demands, then we have affected the world in such a way that much of this, the carbon in the atmosphere has actually increased, thereby leading to much more higher temperatures and such. Now, one of the things when we talk about, I think it's circularity, is that everything actually moves in a much more of a circular manner around the atmosphere, around the universe. So that leaf, when it falls on the ground, it plays a very, very important role in ensuring that a balance within the carbon that is within the atmosphere or the surface of the earth. And therefore, every single thing that you do, it is very, very critical because in a way it affects the life that you are living in, or the amount of temperatures or amount the cap of carbon that is reduced. And therefore, it is a call to each one of us that we may watch out everything that we do today, because in everything that we are doing today, we are playing a key role in maintaining the temperatures of this particular of the universe. You know what happens? That is when they exceed. We have been warned too many times about what happens when we exceed beyond 2 degrees. That is, the temperatures of the earth go beyond 2 degrees. And therefore, it is a call when you get out there, take this message. It's time for action. And it's time to push our government, it's time to push the institution that we work with, that it's time for action to save the earth that we are in. Thank you so much. And I take the time to invite my friend, his counsel, Lord Kuria, who is going to give a statement.
Thank you, sir. Hey, young and learned, young lady in grounds. Okay. Play.
Within Nairobi.
Sorry for that. Call DJ, play the music as we get ready. Thank you.
Yes, I was saying I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya practicing in Nairobi. And I was invited to this event by Mr. Jerry. It was a very short notice. gather together in. Now, the issue of the environment has been something that has been talked about for so long. There have been many institutions, many organizations that have tried to address the issue of the issues that are going on in the environment, but I don't think that it has been substantially addressed. And I'm very keen and I'm very happy to see that most of the people here are young people. Young people who understand that there is a danger, there is a threat, an imminent threat, that what is going to kill off the human race is global warming. Now, I want to talk about two key legislations that we have in this country that we need to make use of, and I think we need to, as young people, we need to have green suits to enforce some of the issues that come up in the environment.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Your Honor, allow me cut you short because of the time.
Yes.
We shall proceed thereafter. From now, allow me welcome. Just have a seat, sir, please. Council, let me just have a seat, please. Have a seat, please. Let me have your council. Thank you so much for addressing us. Let me have the director. We started our virtual event officially, so we shall be talking to you shortly, and then we're going to that. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone. Okay, hatuna ya kati, tunajito hiyo hapa. Already the meeting imeanza, wamenionyesha vile inaendelea huko. So na NTV wamesema hofu, wamesema hawangependa kuchukua watu wakikura. So I think tukikura within 10 minutes, maybe nation media will concentrate with our summit. Then from hapo watu wakue haraka, or how we advise the way we can do. Because already the meeting has started right away. Kindly, please. And we appreciate Cascade wherever you are. Hata nyinyi kwa mikao yenu, you are part of our partners. I think inaonyeshwa right away. So sorry lawyer, we respect you and we respect you so much, but it's because of our time. Thank you guys.
Alright, so we're gonna go virtual, direct. I can give a sound to hear what this one of the brothers are saying and sisters. Meanwhile, we are going to organize how you're going to get your meals there, or where they're going to line up for that. Thank you so much.
We have Wi-Fi. I think admin that we advise tumekuwa na Cascade in case anybody want to stream and share on your Twitter, your social media, then it will do great for us.
Sawa. We are going to show you the Wi-Fi so that you can stream. Remember the hashtag is race to 0. Share with your neighbors and share the link that we are live also on Mogi TV, 3G TV, NTV streaming live, and we are live now on air in Kenya too. So enjoy as I get more advice on how you guys gonna eat. Sorry for keeping you. Meanwhile, my technical team, you can give us loud voice. I can see that is Mr. Ima Renzo, all the way from New York City. Thank you. Forgive us for the audio. We shall be correcting that shortly. But as I can see, that is our CEO, if I'm not wrong. And the conversation is going on. As we wait for the Wi-Fi. All right. We loud and clear.
We can't do the talk, we must act. And what we do at that time
Can you see it clearly from where you are? Is it clear to you? Or should we reduce the light? It's clear. So. Let's work on the link. This is being broadcasted live from New York City, Asia, and then in Kenya. We happen to be the only We Don't Have Time chapter Kenya office, and we are the headquarters of Africa, so you understand technical issues as usual. But we together this. Anyone DJ? You ready, guys? You ready to serve? All right. DJ, can you get some other soft music? Can you get some soft music waiting later on? Meanwhile, I shall be serving you guys in order because we can't stand all of us together. So, this table, the wonderful guys here, the VIPs will start off and come back. The second table like that. That's how we're gonna go. So you guys, if you're ready, let me allow them to come and get served. All right. So, Geoffrey added me to this. Yeah, sorry for the sound. We still want him that should be a little bit to go. And Angelo, Victor Angelo, and the second table can follow. My lady, you can also go get me. Yeah. Look. And give it. As well as a little and my movie TV people, go get some.
In a bar in Toledo, across from the depot, a bar stool stood up a rim.
Meanwhile, you can be, I cannot, as I said, get to know someone. Know your neighbor. Know your neighbor, please. Come out with you. Thank you. Hold on a little bit. Servers, thank you guys. Angelo, just a break. We are keeping the gates up. By VLP, sorry, there was a miscommunication. Please have a seat. We'll get started. Sorry, I forgot something. Keep it. It's all right. We'll get started. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. We are live right now, and I beg for your forgiveness because, we can now enjoy the live streaming. We are live in Kenya, and we're live in New York City, and we are live all over the world. And I'm honored to stand before you again. Those who came in late, my name is Phil McLeod. I host at Thika Town Today TV, and also your host today. And you can watch us on your we are here now. It's almost there. You can share with your phones. You can see the TV app. New York City and Kenya at the same time. So share that link and let your neighbors see it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Devastating storms and heat waves in North America, floods throughout Europe and China, wildfires from Greece to California and Australia, and most recently, food shortages in Madagascar due to record droughts. The list goes on. Our material use has played a major part in this climate breakdown. Our GAP report reveals that nearly 70% of all greenhouse gases are related in one way or the other to materials, from extraction to processing and use. This proves how vital it is to look beyond the narrow focus of the current climate pledges to make a real impact. And against that backdrop of a 1.1 degree warmer world, catastrophic weather events, and increased material consumption, it is clear that the speed and the scale of our current commitments fall woefully short. Time is really running out. And even if all countries that pledge climate action as part of the Paris Agreement fulfill their emission-cutting promises, the rise in temperature is still forecast to hit 3.2 degrees this century. If we didn't even manage to reach what we have currently pledged, a warming between 4 and 6 degrees can still be the outcome. We're already past the point of minor events. Course correction will require a major and transformational gear change in systemic thinking. This big shift is the circular economy. To explain the circular economy, I need to take you back 4.5 billion years ago to the beginning and the forming of this planet. The planet since that time has functioned in a naturally circular way. Even as our first ancestors appeared 200,000 years ago and modern civilization 600 years ago, humans largely lived within the means of this planet. It was only 200 years ago, with the rise of the industrial age, with the invention of the steam engine, if you want to pinpoint the time, that we have left circularity behind. Since then, we have developed and refined a model of take, make, waste, a linear economic model. And in short, what has got us where we are today in every sense is that linear economy. Over decades, even centuries, since that boom of the Industrial Revolution, it has delivered tremendous living standards, wealth, and comfortable lives to some people in some parts of the world at certain times. But it has also caused massive damage to the planet and the people living on it. And as a result, in a resource-constrained world with high-impact megatrends, rapid population growth, and widespread urbanization, the linear model is flawed and no longer fit for purpose. And it is therefore that society finds itself standing at an historic economic and cultural tipping point. Do we continue to tweak and tamper with our broken linear model, or do we pivot to a circular economy? But how do we do it? In the end, we need materials to fuel our lifestyles, which produce emissions. In a circular economy, it boils down to adopting 4 key principles: using less resources, using resources longer, using resources again, and using clean resources. In using less, the overall level of materials flowing into an economy and the emissions they bring will be lower. For example, when houses are built using different materials or different techniques, 3D printed houses using more efficient fabrication techniques have tremendous potential to reduce scrap and transport of materials. In using resources longer, the entire lifetime of a resource or product, from first use to end of use, is extended. For example, a phone, when it is designed for repairability, the functional lifetime can be extended well beyond what has become the norm today. In using resources again, The embodied emissions in these materials can be removed. The largest volume of waste currently comes from the demolition of buildings, and only 1/3 is used. When these materials get diverted from landfill, and instead we use the building of new houses again, this can have enormous difficulties. And making resources clean should focus on alternatives to fossil fuels, for example, bio-based alternatives, and in general the design of fossils. Combining all these strategies, our Circularity Gap report found that a global circular economy could cut greenhouse gas emissions by nearly 40% and limit the global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees. To get the global economy on a pathway towards circularity and well below 2 degrees, major course corrections already, and the majority of countries today are not on track to update already inadequate climate measures. To put emissions into a structural decline, large shifts in government policies will have to take place, as well as private action. In 2020, we saw the economy have rapid behavioral change in government decisions for to take place. This was during the COVID-19 pandemic, as people were restricted to their homes, and then it was made emissions to 20. We saw at the lowest point global CO2 emissions was 7% lower than a year before. The lowest level since 2010. However, climate breakdown, not COVID-19, will be the biggest challenge over time. We're armed now with this new knowledge, faced with the necessary urgency and rapidly change our behaviors almost overnight. We've seen it happen, and now we need to apply the same urgency to fix this linear system of behavior. So, how does the implementation of circular solutions relate to the race to zero? It is critical. As we have seen, the twin agendas of circular economy and climate mitigation can get us on that path to well below 2. In adopting a roadmap back to circular strategies, we can pave the way for systemic transformations needed to course correct the global economy, going far beyond the limitations of current policy and national economy. 34 kilogram materials per person per day need to drop dramatically, as does the proportion that goes to waste. We currently waste 90% of what we use. We keep the value of only 10. We need to flip that around. Keep the 90. But doing this will require the transformation of governmental action, applying circular strategies across sectors and culture. And the good news is that momentum is already building towards adoption of circular economic models. We have a choice. Personally, I've been in this field for 10 years and have seen the change happen in front of my eyes, seen it move from the fringes to the mainstream and from rhetoric to reality. Local names championing circular economy, such as Greta. Brands are adopting circular business models like Fairphone. Cities and countries are transitioning away from linearity. Cities like Prague and countries like Chile. We will also be hearing from tangible examples of circularity in action in the sessions today. My hope is that Glasgow can be on the right side of history as a pivotal moment where world leaders align on transformational rather than incremental thinking. We have no time to lose. And I want to thank the organizers and wish all participants a fabulous exchange today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mark David, for joining us today. Our next keynote speaker of this segment is an entrepreneur who has been a passionate advocate for circular economy for over 10 years. He is also one of the 2 climate champions for the UN Climate Conference, COP26 in Glasgow in November.
This is Gonzalo Munoz, appointed high-level climate champion of COP25 to mobilize climate action among non-state actors around the world. Before that, he co-founded and led Tricycles, one of the most recognized Latin American companies in circular economy and recycling. Inspired by 10 years of running traditional food businesses and witnessing the waste generated by the private sector, Gonzalo Munoz used his entrepreneurial and business skills to set up a transformative service that could help the environment while being financially sustainable.
Gonzalo, thank you for finding time during your very busy schedule at Climate Week New York City. You have the floor.
Well, first, thanks so much for having me today. It's a real privilege to have the opportunity to discuss about this really fundamental link between circular economy and climate action. As you mentioned, I have the honor of being one of the 2 United Nations High-Level Climate Action Champions, and in my role, I work in close partnership with my dear friend Nigel Tobin, the UK High-Level Climate Action Champion from the UK. Our role as climate champions is to champion the ambition and action that need to be taken by so-called non-state actors in addressing the climate change. This means working to accelerate climate action between cities, regions, businesses, investors from all around the world, among others. And we know now we've been working for even an extra year due to COVID, due to the postponement of COP26 from 2020 to this year. And we're now 1.5 months from COP. These 2 years that we've had for working together with Nigel in this partnership has given us a great opportunity to go through the COVID crisis, really addressing the opportunity, but also concrete actions that we need to develop. These 2 presidents, COP25 and COP26, have put it together concrete work that I would like to share with you, mostly on our work around 3 major campaigns. One campaign around mitigating the effects of climate change, and then, of course, through Race to Zero campaign that we'll be talking about longer. Then, the other big element of the climate agenda is resilience and adaptation. So we launched also a civil campaign called Race to Resilience, working around increasing the resilience of 4 billion people, those most vulnerable that are being affected by the climate crisis, that need to not only survive it, but they need to thrive in spite of it. So in that aspect, we're working with 3 major elements. One is urban areas, mostly trying to remove slums, and then rural areas with smallholder farmers, and then coastal zones, right? The evident effect of the sea level rise. And the third big campaign is called GFANS, the Global Financial Alliance, that is being led also by McCartney. We launched it together, and now putting together the trillions that are required to solve this crisis. Let me go back to the first one, right? Where Race to Zero, it's incredible what had happened, and even during the COVID crisis. Now more than 2/3 of the world economy are covered now by net zero targets. When it comes to the non-state actors, we have now almost 800 cities, and we grow from now to COP, 35 major regions, like big states in the United States, or Brazil, or Australia, or of course the European Union. Nearly 4,500 businesses from different sizes, different sectors of the economy, different regions. 220 investors representing almost $90 trillion that are now committed to deliver the solutions that are required for that net zero residual world by 2050. And between those also more than 700 educational institutions that are so important for the future, and of course to embed all of these topics in the next generation. You can see that these numbers, of course, means a lot when it comes to the data itself. But when compared where we were only 2 years ago, we started this journey on positioning net zero as a main goal for all of these actors. Exactly 2 years ago, it was indeed beautifully September the 23rd in 2019. It was the Secretary General's Climate Summit here in New York. And at that time, the numbers were very, very small. We had, when it comes, for example, to the financial sector, we had $2 trillion that committed, and now we're talking about $90 trillion. When it comes to the business sector, it was about 70 business. Now we have 45,000. So it's astonishing how things have been changing, but also it's not only about positioning our long-term goal, let's say, around 2050, it's also about the short-term goal. What do we need to do now in this critical decade? And we launched in January this year what we call the 2030 breakthroughs to try to mobilize in 30 sectors of the economy what we call the ambition rate, to bring at least 20% of the major actors of that sector of the economy into the rate to zero. We set the goal within ourselves to reach at least 10 of those ambition breakthroughs for COP26. Well, we announced that we have already reached 15 of those sectors, some of which were not the most expected. For example, cement and concrete. So what I would like to reflect now is how circularity fits into this incredible change that is happening. Well, circular economy is an integral part of the Race to Zero. A decarbonized world is based on circular economy as it provides these strategic clear answers. And we'll have to recognize circular economy is not only a culture. It's beginning to be deeply ingrained in country and company strategy, and also resonating better and better at the highest political level, so getting integrated into the climate process. We had our first circular economy moment in Madrid during last COP in 2019, and since then we've been working on putting the topic as a kind of filter for everything we do. We have in our team Harald working as a lead on circular economy, but also working very closely with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So I think we can see that together with other strong concepts such as just transition and regeneration, as well as biodiversity, for example, circular economy is providing real clear answers that countries, cities, and business can implement. And therefore, accelerating the shift to circular economy is essential to achieve the climate goals agreed by the international community and to help rebuild the world's economy stronger, greener, and better. We've heard, according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation report, as we've heard also from Mark, while moving to renewable can address 55% of the global greenhouse gas emissions to achieve the goals set by science and set by the United Nations. It is imperative to tackle the remaining 45%, and then circular economy must be the pathway to achieving it. It's great to see how companies, cities, and countries are picking up circular economy, but also it's important to acknowledge that the race is not ending in Glasgow. COP26, of course, is critical, but we see how all of destruction is increasing and accelerating beyond COP as well. Just to wrap up, because I see that the clock there, I would like to refer that to different moments that we will be having from now to COP. We need to help countries to understand how businesses are now, through integrated circular economy, supporting the NDCs. We need to accelerate that cultural shift where governments change the waste logic, the one that includes circular economy in the center of as many sectors as possible. And from now to COP, we have a lot of particular events bringing circularity closer to the consumer. Now, into run to COP, I look forward to really everything as a service moving forward. We have the Net Zero Circular Economy Industry Alliance taking new steps. Last week we had this event on setting the alliance between Latin American circular economy and the African circular economy. The alliance, we're seeing a lot of that happening, and I just want to close by saying circular economy will be in the center of COP26 in Glasgow, and personally I look forward to continue embedding the topic into the center of the climate agenda. Thank you very much. Look forward to continued collaboration.
Thank you very much indeed, Gonzalo. And we've got some very tight timekeepers here right now, so we've no time for questions, but we want to make sure all the viewers around the world watching the show tune into the app that we have at We Don't Have Time, and they can ask questions to you and to us over that app, and hopefully quite a few will come your way. Thanks a million there. Okay, so carbon markets. It's a topic that's going to be widely discussed at COP26 in Glasgow in November. It's therefore our great pleasure to introduce a true expert in sustainable energy, a person who in the run-up to COP26 has also been asked to co-chair the Voluntary Carbon Markets Integrity Initiative, Rachel Kite, you have the floor.
This is Rachel Kite, Chief Executive Officer of Sustainable Energy for All and Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All. Previously, she was World Bank Group Vice President and Special Envoy for Climate Change. In that role, she also worked on climate change adaptation, mitigation, and climate finance across the institutions of the World Bank Group.
I'm going to ask you to take the floor twice. Please take the floor, Rachel. Thank you.
Hey Nick, it's lovely to see you and it's lovely to be here. Hello everyone. And really inspired to follow Gonzalo, who is showing that it's not just a race, a sprint, but also a marathon. So carbon markets are going to be an important part, or already an important part, of how countries are going to finance their need for adaptation, resilience, and their own green transitions. They're also an important way for certain parts of our economy, different industries, to be able to make the transition from their current practice to being net zero companies or being companies that are truly carbon neutral. I mean, a carbon market is basically based on the idea that if you have carbon assets, you can monetize them, you can turn them into a financial flow that you can use for your own climate purposes.
I request
so
to watch. I request you to watch, please, because we are being watched all over the country now to Kotuyangi. You know, kindly watch. Just a few minutes to finish and then we need to go. Thank you. Everybody, we watch, all of us.
They play an important role, but they haven't been fully realised. Now, because we have this race to zero that has been unleashed by Gonzalo and many others, many companies are now coming forward, forced by their investors, forced by the geopolitics of China, the US, the EU, 70% of global GDP committing to being carbon neutral by 2050, companies now have to find a way to become carbon neutral themselves. And for many of those companies, they're looking at the carbon markets as a way to be able to do that. In some cases, to offset the emissions that come from their operations by entering into the carbon markets. So, the carbon markets are of course controversial because within the carbon markets, especially the voluntary carbon markets, there have in the past been greenwashing. So companies making a claim that they are carbon neutral without being able to explain how they do that, without being able to explain the science of it, and now today, without perhaps first explaining how they're going to reduce emissions, and then once they've reduced emissions and that they have a science-based pathway for their own transition, where they would only use carbon markets to get rid of the residual emissions that they couldn't get rid of by changing their processes or changing their business models. So the Voluntary Carbon Markets Integrity Initiative is here basically to try to bring stakeholders, governments, civil society, business, finance, everybody together to establish the rules around the claims, the guardrails or the guidance necessary for us to make sure that within a voluntary carbon market, claims can actually be trusted and that finance would actually flow into the pockets of those who would need it in order to protect nature. The voluntary carbon market only needs to exist if it actually helps us smooth the pathway to 1.5 degrees and if it helps produce a revenue stream to those who need it the most. We don't need a voluntary carbon market if it is just going to circulate money around in a tub of greenwashing. I think it's also important to realise that carbon markets could grow very, very fast. But a carbon market with high integrity, where there are clear rules and transparency and assurance that a claim is truly a claim, that will lead to a growing carbon market. But trying to grow the carbon market fast without that integrity will not breed the kind of trust that we need for developing countries to know that those resources will actually help them, and for companies to know that their claims will actually help them improve their position with investors. So the only business case for carbon markets is for a high integrity carbon market. So over the next few months, with an extraordinary expert advisory group, we will be coming forward with a set of guidances for discussion and for argument, really, about how we will make sure that there is integrity in the voluntary carbon market. How will we know that carbon exchanges are actually allowing us to move towards 1.5 degrees? How will we know that we are aligning with Paris and with the SDGs? How will we know that a voluntary carbon market will actually lay the groundwork for regulated carbon markets and for other forms of regulation which are absolutely necessary if we are going to take carbon out of our economies? How will we know that a claim on the private sector side is one that is based on science? How do we know that it's a legitimate claim in the transition? Because there are companies today that will find it very difficult to be carbon neutral without some facilitation. And so these are the kinds of questions that we're asking ourselves, and these are the kinds of guidelines that we'll be issuing probably after COP26. Of course, there's extraordinary work that's already going on, largely in the private sector, around the voluntary carbon market, really building enthusiasm for cooperation and collaboration that's absolutely necessary. What we do is hopefully provide that work, the task force and others that have been established, with the intel inside, the way to do this so that it is with high integrity. If we have high integrity, then there's a real reason to believe that we could actually see a carbon market provide very, very necessary resources into developing countries that don't have the finance today to make the transitions that they need to make. But, as I said, this only makes sense if carbon markets help us reduce emissions and help us do so in an equitable way.
Thank you so much indeed for that. Many people will not understand this topic, but you basically outlined the challenge here and what you're trying to achieve. Thank you very much for joining us. My timekeepers have told me we've run out of time on this section, but please, people ask questions to the end. Thank you.
One of the organisers of this event is the Exponential Roadmap Initiative. Luckily, with us in the studio to explain more about this is Owen Gaffney, co-founder of this initiative.
This is Owen Gaffney. He's the co-founder of the Exponential Roadmap Initiative, an accredited partner of the United Nations Race to Zero, and a founding partner of the 1.5-degree supply chain leaders at the SME Climate Hub. Owen is a global sustainability analyst and writer at the Stockholm Resilience Center and the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. Together with Professor Johan Rockström, Owen has written the book Breaking Boundaries, which was recently turned into a Netflix documentary with the same name.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Could you please explain to the viewers what is the Exponential Roadmap Initiative?
So it's really an initiative about driving exponential change. You know, just a few years ago, when the Paris Agreement first came into force, it wasn't clear then how to achieve, what kind of pathway we needed to be on. So we were the first to propose that we need to be halving emissions every decade to actually get emissions down, to get temperatures down to around 1.5 degrees. And so that's been the core part, that exponential change has been the core part of the Exponential Roadmap Initiative. How do we push that message into policy and to businesses? So the initiative is really about bringing together the leading companies that will transform, disrupt, and innovate our way along that pathway.
So what makes you different from other initiatives?
So, well, I think very much it's that driving the change. I think a lot of initiatives about bringing companies on board to survive the transition. There's going to be a huge energy transition, there absolutely has to be, and ensuring companies can do that and survive and thrive. But we're about really driving it, bringing in the innovators and disruptors who are going to just change entire sectors and push at the kind of scale we absolutely need.
And we saw some images here of the 1.5-degree business playbook. That's one of the products you have in your portfolio. Could you tell us a little bit more about the products you offer?
Yeah, so well, the first thing we did was produce a roadmap to show that it was actually possible to halve emissions globally across all sectors by 2030. This is actually, technologically, it's feasible. So then how do we scale that? And then since that product, we've then looked at, well, offering businesses a playbook, simple heuristics to drive down emissions on the kind of scale we want. And now we have the SME, the small and medium-sized enterprises. An initiative for them, for the smaller companies, to do exactly the same, to scale their action on climate.
So the COP is coming up. What are you doing at the COP and for the COP?
So we have a big program of events. First, we are part of the Race to Zero, the huge initiative Gonzalo talked about to really drive change with the business community. And we're there really to drive up numbers to get to exponentially scale for small and medium-sized businesses, to adopt our thinking methodology, come on board and drive change, and for big businesses, big multinationals, to do exactly the same.
Well, thank you so much, Olga. You'll be back later on in the broadcast. Thanks so much. And now we're going to focus on circularity and digitalization. Don't forget, please write questions to the speakers on the app, share your comments and also your ideas. From smarter buildings able to operate with far lower carbon footprints to new ways of working online, tracking waste for reuse across vast supply chains and helping to verify voluntary carbon market projects like protected forests. Digitalization is key to halving the emissions by 2030. We need to win the race to zero and rapidly build a circular economy. As our first keynote speaker in this segment, I would like to introduce Lars Lindén. Lars Lindén is the CEO of Ragn-Sells Group since 2016, and he has a long experience in the recycling, waste, and environmental sector. as well as from the telecom business. So welcome, Lars India. Please give us your perspective.
First of all, it's a true pleasure to be here. Now, if we are serious about creating a sustainable society, we have to use raw material we already have extracted over and over again, as often as possible. This might sound obvious, and it actually is. However, today almost half of our climate impact and 90% of our water scarcity issues are linked to the way we extract resources and produce goods and food. We really need to rethink, and that's fast. We have to generate new raw materials without exhausting our planet's resources and thereby fueling the climate crisis. To reach this target set in the Paris Agreement, we all need to change the way we make business, and we all need to push for a circular economy. But in a circular economy, our belief is that there will be no waste. So you ask yourself, will there be any waste management companies in the future? We actually don't think so. Therefore, we at Access are transforming our business to become a raw material producer. Together with partners, customers, and in collaboration with scientists and academia, we are working to create more closed material loops so that as much of the resources we already have extracted can be used over and over again. To achieve this, there are a number of activities that have to happen. New business models and innovative circular solutions must be deployed. Secondly, we need to put material quality as a determination priority when it comes to recycled raw materials, not the origin of the material as such. We also need to adjust and adopt legislation and international agreements to secure the circulation of the most critical raw materials. Furthermore, we need products to be designed for a circular economy. This is a huge topic today in society. And lastly, we need to stop treating waste as something without value, and instead see it as a key source for raw material recovery. We all together, we have an amazing opportunity to create a sustainable future by transitioning to a society based on circular principles, by keeping critical resources in the loop, instead of throwing them away. If we all pull together and collaborate, a sustainable and circular future will soon be within our reach. I thank you all for listening to me.
Well, thank you very much, Lars India. Let's now move on to another expert in this field.
This is Per Schatz, Director of Sustainability at Randcells, a family-owned third-generation company that collects, treats, and recycles waste and residual products from businesses, organizations, and households. Per is an award winner in communication, social sustainability, and entrepreneurship, listed multiple times by Trust Across America as one of the top thought leaders in trust. He is the current appointed expert for setting environmental targets for sea and coastal regions in Sweden, and for the Coalition Group for a climate-neutral Swedish industry by 2045.
Warm welcome to the studio, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Katarina. In my speech today, I will try to highlight our potential to contribute to two of the upcoming COP conference, two priorities. That is adaptation and mitigation. But first, Randcells originated from 1881, when we were a transport company, transporting goods and people with horses. In the 1960s, we became a waste management company. And today, in the linear economy, we are recycling. But tomorrow, as Lars mentioned in his initial speech, we will become a raw material producer, but also a detoxifier, and that is very important going forward. 50% of our emissions, our greenhouse gas emissions, originates from the fossil fuels that we use to transport ourselves or power our houses or our industries. The other 50% are embedded in the products that we use every day, the heat that we consume, and the infrastructure that we use. If we would like to reach the ambitions of the Paris Agreement, we must also create circular materials loops, and that will be crucial going forward. And by that, we also need to change processes in society. We can't just replace the energy, we need to have new processes in place. The solutions that we put on the market need to fulfill 3 criteria. The first, we need to make sure that we recycle back as much material as possible, where we can reduce the need for urgent production somewhere else. Secondly, decontamination. We can't move around everything that we put into the ecosystem. We need to have a way of taking out the nasty stuff. And thirdly, of course, we shouldn't put any hindrances to future generations. And you talk about the climate issue as well as other environmental challenges. Let us now cover some of the processes in the world that we need to change. And I will start with the nitrogen cycle. Today, when we produce nitrogen fertilizer, we do that through the Haber wash method that we received the Nobel Prize in 1980. It means that we incinerate natural gas, take it down from the atmosphere, use it, and then it ends up in our wastewater. Now we need to take it out of the wastewater, because if we don't do that, it will risk to lead to eutrophication. And then in the end, if I go very far away from now, can lead to that our seas and oceans go from today's huge carbon sink to become even carbon emitters. So the nitrogen must go out. Today we do that through biological methods, where we take out nitrogen up to the atmosphere, but also have a huge leakage of laughing gases. And this means that the whole nitrogen cycle is a huge carbon emitter. Here we have developed solutions where we can extract the nitrogen directly from the wastewater and directly produce fertilizer. We don't need to bypass the atmosphere. We will launch this next September in a huge fair in Copenhagen, and here we do see a huge global potential, because the cost to implement this will be lower than today's technology. At the same time, it will be a climate negative solution in the end. The problem though is that the nitrogen that we produce are we not allowed to use today, because today's legislation, if you're going to use something, it depends on origin and not the quality. And if it has been waste, it is banned. Another process that I would like to highlight, and I would like to zoom out, is not just the nitrogen. I would like to zoom out to the wastewater treatment plants. In here, we have, together with the Swedish Water, together with the food industry, WWF and others, launched 7 principles that we like to be implemented in society, where wastewater treatment plant will become a resource plant in the future. Again, the systems are set up to hinder that, so we need to change not just in Sweden, we need to change in almost all countries around the world. But if that is given as a possibility, we see that this will really be able that the wastewater treatment plant will become carbon reducers. Let us now move into an example, a third example from us, and that is from Estonia, where we, by adding carbon dioxide to ash mountains, we'll be able to produce new resources. So let us take out to a small film.
22 million tons of calcium carbonate is mined worldwide. So we could buy the simplest everyday items, from food products to paints. Unfortunately, the mining and producing of precipitated calcium carbonate is resulting in a huge amount of greenhouse gas emissions. Did you know that there are ash deposits holding about 600 million tons of ash from electric power production in Estonia? Out of all of that, only 1% has been reused over time.
Laboratory and industrial scale experiments show that we can produce tailor-made, high-quality precipitated calcium carbonate according to the client's need. First time ever, we have an opportunity to produce climate-neutral precipitated calcium carbonate We do not need to open new lines or burn anything. We are extracting calcium using water-based leaching. What is very important, our technology is based on zero liquid discharge. All the water is in constant circulation. What is even more important, the extracted calcium is bonded with the external CO2. This means that our production is capturing more carbon than emitting. This makes our product very unique.
Bragg&Sell's OSA project is a unique example on how to capture CO2 into products with a long life cycle and use them as a material instead of treating them as waste.
Several European companies that are using precipitated calcium carbonate have shown great interest in our product and want to use it in their production. One good example is KLM, window profile manufacturer from Germany. In cooperation with them, we could capture and utilize CO2 in their products. We believe that our project has the potential of becoming the biggest European-based circular economy solution. Our project will help us to achieve the goals set in the Paris Agreement and lead the way into circular-based economy.
The potential for this single project in Estonia will mean that we can reduce the carbon emissions emitted on the globe with 400 million tons of carbon dioxide or equivalent. And that is the same amount as 8 years of Sweden's and nation's total carbon emissions. At the same time, we can avoid digging up limestone to the same equivalent as 200 years of production needed for the cement production in the world. There are many good examples around in the world. We will later on listen to two of the industries where I really appreciate their efforts, and that is Tarkett and Saint-Gobain. They have decided to mine their future resources from the construction material that are already in our buildings. And that's exactly what we need to see happening. Making sure that we can enable new resources to be avoided to be digging up if we can. So looking forward to listening to all other good examples in the next hour to come, and let's create the market for circular material flows. Then we'll be able to really reduce the carbon emissions. And I will answer any questions through the app.
Thank you very much, Per Larssons. You'll be back shortly for a panel talk. The next speaker is a sustainability pioneer. He's been leading by example and is very dedicated to helping the ICT industry to unlock its climate action potential.
This is Mats Elberg-Scharp, Head of Sustainability at Ericsson, one of the world's leading providers of information and communication technology, ICT, to service providers. Mats is a sustainability pioneer, helping the ICT industry unlock climate action potential. In his role at Ericsson, he has group responsibility for circular economy, environmental performance, climate action, environmental management, and sustainability impacts and benefits from ICT and IoT.
Welcome, Mats. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Katarina. It's a pleasure to be here again, I must say. And I want to talk about circularity, and you have heard how important circularity is for both the climate action as well as how important the process and innovations are to reach the circularity of materials. But I will bring up some other examples as well, and three things that I would like to talk about is really the importance of understanding the life cycle impact. And the second part that I'd like to talk about is really how important business models are for circularity, and the third thing is the power of digitalization, which is of course close to my work. But to start then, why is the life cycle impact so important to understand? I think normally we see that prolonging the life and using or refurbishing and reusing equipment is the highest order. But in general, that might be an oversimplification, because you have to understand the life cycle impact to know if it's better to use and reuse or if it's better to recycle and use the material another time. So on that note, I will take two examples to make this a little easier to understand, I guess. And that is very close to us, and that is of course the mobile phone and the mobile network. If you look on a mobile phone, about 80% of the impact of a mobile phone comes from the production of a mobile phone. The big display, the printed circuit board, the processor and memory inside the phone takes a lot of energy to produce. While we have managed to make the charger very, very efficient and the use of the phone very small, so that is only 10 to 20% of the total impact of a mobile phone. If you compare that with the mobile network that makes the phone work, or the base stations and communication equipment around that, it's in fact the total opposite. Around 10% of the impact comes from the production, while over 80% comes from the use and the energy to fire these networks and use these networks. So then, of course, the best thing that you could do as a private person is really to prolong the life of your mobile phone. That will reduce the total impact of mobile phones significantly. So 1 more year will more or less increase or decrease your total digital footprint enormously. On the other hand, in a mobile network, to use that mobile network, if the equipment is so much more energy efficient than the previous generation, it might be a good time to replace that and use more modern equipment because of all the energy consumption while in use. So I think that is just to explain the difference and the importance of the life cycle impact. If I move on then to the business model. The business model is important because it drives the behavior of companies. So as a service business model is generally understood to be much better from a circular perspective. And why is that? It's because you internalize all the problems that you create when you design a product. So if you design a product that uses a lot of energy, suddenly you have to pay your energy bill yourself. And if you design a product that you need to change a lot of equipment, then you have to take care of all the service and going out to the site and changing that. So that's why business model and service is so important. And one example of that is there is a possibility for cities to buy light as a service. So instead of buying the light source, the energy, and putting this up and down and changing all the light sources, you can buy light as a service. And then, of course, the company that usually sells light sources, then they have to take all the costs for the maintenance, for the energy and for other things. And then they design the product in a totally different way. Much longer life for the product, less energy consumption, and less maintenance is needed because that is their own cost and they have to design the product in a different way than when they have a linear model selling new products all the time. So finally, the power of digitalization, and of course that is hugely important for circularity. But why is that important for circularity? Well, I can give you just one example. We have talked about peak oil for 25 years or more. But I will talk about peak cola. And what is peak cola? In 1999 was the peak of selling film for candles. And since then, in less than 10 years, the film sales went down 99% thanks to digitalization. That is the power, the first step of the power of digitalization. At that time, it was replaced by small and relatively unqualified digital cameras. All digital cameras has now more or less gone down with over 90%, and that is the power of the mobile digitalization, because now people use their mobile phone to take the pictures, and now also more people the same way, so you can use your equipment much more and it doesn't impact. And I think the power of digitalization, in short, is really the best way to save resources is to use no material at all. And that is the true meaning of power of digitalization. So thank you. I will then move on, I guess.
Excellent, Mats. Let's welcome Per back on stage for a panel talk. Please join us now. Inspiring indeed, but I'd like for you to first start out by reflecting on each other's and also Lars India's presentation. What thoughts do you get from listening to Mats, who represents the ICT industry?
Well, the digitalization are important for us to make sure that we can create certain material flows. We need to keep track of the resources, and then digitalization will be very vital. Then I think from Lars' speech I would like to highlight the challenges in policies. Today, almost all policies around the world says that quality is not the determining factor, it's the origin. So if it has been waste, and what is defined as waste, we can't use it. So if we really mean for real that we have a circular economy, we reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we must take it.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah, I think that Pam is very, very powerful and eloquent in his speech on the resources and material. But what I really like is your very clear model on how to judge if it's good or not, and looking about future generations and how to reuse the material. I think that those three criteria that you are having in your process is really, really powerful and interesting. So that is my key takeaway.
And you represent two very different parts of the industry and society. And we're talking today about circularity and climate. What do you hope to achieve by taking part in this and talking about these two topics at the same time?
From my perspective, I think what I have looked at is how digitalization, how to reduce the use of materials, and I think we have seen that in sector after sector. So for me, it's really about understanding that, and also then understanding why it's so important to start also to invest in digital infrastructures. And especially in Europe, we see that we are lagging behind on 5 and other things. So I think that we see that investment in decent fueling digital infrastructure as an infrastructure, and not just as a mobile network, I think is very important. So that is one of the things that I think we hope to learn.
Coming back to the last speech again, we talked about the importance of collaboration. What we are trying to create is material flows where we work in the material itself, not in our branch. And when we then start to collaborate with partners, we often discover that they use a system that has been delivered by Ericsson. So in order for us, we need to then connect, and then of course Ericsson will be a key enabler to create those material flows.
I'd like for you to reflect on each other's topics for a bit here. So Mats, a question for you. Abstaining from using materials from your different perspective than Paris, what effects could that have?
Well, I think abstaining from using materials, but also putting the materials in and deciding when is the right time to do the different things. So when do we send things for materials recycling and really do that in a good way so we have the most efficient processes? When do we upgrade with software and reuse? And so I think the whole balancing and understanding from the sustainability perspective how we can take the right choices at the right time, I think is one of the key elements.
Thank you. And Per, your example of, I have to read this because it's very... PCC, precipitated calcium carbonate, promising process. And how can you enable this even more with the ICT as a support?
The problem now, before we can open up the first plant, is to source the carbon dioxide. And it shouldn't be too little of the carbon dioxide, but the problem again to policymakers in Brussels, we're now starting to reduce the possibility for us to even use this very promising project. Because everybody says that the carbon dioxide need to go down under the Atlantic Ocean. We say if the processes that really reduce the need for new production resources, why don't you use them? And of course, keeping track of that, making sure that it works, the logistics, we need that digitalization and hopefully the systems.
Well, thank you so much. There's somebody in my ear saying that we have to move on. Wonderful to have you on board, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to living in the material world, rethinking the built environment. How we build and construct where we live, and of course where we work and also play, has proven to be one of the hardest areas for cutting climate change emissions. Stubbornly, the built environment is around 38% of carbon dioxide emissions, so how can a circular economy help? Our keynote speaker for this segment is a professor whose work has been vital for the European Commission's climate and circular economy policies.
Meet Edgar Helvig, Professor in Industrial Ecology at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Edgar leads the International Resource Panel's work on resource efficiency and climate change. The panel's work has been used in many policy processes, such as EASY's Circular Economy Action Plan and the Renovation Wave for Europe, a part of EU's climate policy for the building sector. Helvig is ranked among the top 100 researchers in the world in the fields of environmental science and climate change, and was the lead author of the Energy Systems chapter of the IPCC 5th Assessment Report.
Edgar, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nick. It is a pleasure to talk to you all. Madonna already told us that we're living in a material world. And why does this matter for climate protection? The production of materials on this globe causes about 1/4 of all greenhouse gas emissions. As such, it is more important than agriculture and forestry taken together. These numbers are really up. Why don't you learn this in school? It was because before the numbers were smaller. It was only 15%. The construction sector, buildings and infrastructure are about 40% of the material use measured in the carbon footprint. And the most important materials for the construction sector in terms of the greenhouse gas emissions are concrete and other things that are made from cement and iron and steel that are used in construction. And these together account for more than 10% of global emissions. If we want to go to a net zero world, we will need to do something with these materials. So the study that I led for the International Research Panel looked at opportunities to reduce these greenhouse gas emissions through strategies of the circular economy and through material efficiency. And in particular, we looked at building lighter structures that require less materials, moving to less emissions-intensive materials away from concrete and steel and masonry towards wood and other plant-based construction materials that store carbon, reducing the waste in the construction process, improving the use of the products, using the floor space more intensively so that we would need less of it. Then finally extending the life of the products or recycling the products, that means the homes in this case. And all of these strategies we found out are important, but they are not equally important. We found out that the most effective strategy that we could follow in our work is actually to have a more intensive use of the buildings. Less floor space per capita. And so you wonder, this might be a very intrusive strategy if it is pursued by policy. But in fact, we found out that there are several ways of achieving more intensive use of floor space. One of them was to have more multi-family homes instead of single-family homes. People who live in multi-family homes generally use less floor space. They also have a higher, more energy-efficient home, so there's a benefit in addition to reducing the material requirements. We also reduce the energy use because we share the outer walls with other people and therefore have less energy transmission through the outer walls. There's also the opportunity in multi-family homes to share infrastructure with each other. For example, we have guest rooms that can be booked instead of having your individual guest room. We have sports facilities and other common areas that we share with each other. So sharing is an important way of achieving more intensive use of green space. Why does the use of the more intensive use actually help the circular economy? It is because as long as we increase in the building stock, we are growing our stock of buildings and having more and more. We cannot supply those materials by recycling. We always need to add new materials to the existing building stock. So we can achieve a circular economy only once we start stabilizing the existing building stock. Further, we found that existing recycling already provides a substantial saving of emissions compared to only using virgin material. And the most important recycling that happens today is that of metals, of structural steel, of copper and wires and pipes and so on. In the future, we have the opportunity to increase the savings from collecting more material and from also recycling minerals. Of course, the savings from recycling minerals are smaller than the ones from recycling the metals, because it's hard to bring the minerals back to the same quality. Finally, we found that especially in developing countries, there was a good opportunity to use more wood as a construction material. And that not only saves emissions from materials production, it also stores carbon in the buildings. And it's actually the best thing you can do with wood is to use it as a construction material instead of any of the other uses such as biofuels or electricity production. Reducing the waste in the construction process is also important. You can do that, for example, through prefabrication, or you can use building information systems that allow you to better control your whole construction process and thereby to already produce elements in the sizes that you need instead of cutting them to sizes of the construction process. Lifetime extension is also an interesting strategy, but it should be used with care because it works only together if you do a refurbishment. All buildings tend to require more operational energy use, have lower energy efficiency, and so that only makes sense if we do the refurbishment at the same time. Finally, architects have come up with lots of ways to design lighter structures, using, for example, arches or using trusses instead of beams. We were very conservative with our assumptions in our model with regard to the opportunities there. But I think that there is actually much more scope in the future through creative structural engineering to design lighter buildings that require less skilled materials. In our model, we estimate that by 2050 we can save about 35% of the emissions from the residential sector by adopting these 7 strategies in the G7 countries. However, the largest savings are possible in those countries that are emerging today, like China and India, where we estimate that emission savings up to 60% are possible with the strategies. And so these are really important. And I want to come back to this issue of the floor space. We actually went deeper into this question of why is it that in some countries per capita floor space is 70 square meters, like in the United States. In the other countries, it's 35 square meters, like in the United Kingdom, where these countries are quite similar in other aspects. And we found that actually policy is an explanatory factor. There are lots of policies in place that actually drive large residences in the US. There is single-family zoning, so people are not allowed to build multi-family homes in a lot of the attractive areas. There is a support for mortgages by the government. That means, especially mortgages for single-family homes are supported, not for multi-family homes. There is tax incentives that the interest payments on your mortgage are deductible from your taxes, and especially wealthy people who have high taxes save a lot, and there's no limit on the size of the residence that is supported through these tax incentives. In Norway, where I live, we have similar tax regimes that create incentives for wealthy people to always increase and move to more expensive living space, which keeps the construction industry busy with building houses for the wealthy, and there is really a shortage of living space for people who are sort of at entry-level jobs. And that's really a situation that is not favorable. And so we need to urge our governments to get rid of the policies that favor the construction of unnecessary housing. And those are really important aspects. With that, I would like to give it back to you. Happy to look at it.
Thanks a lot, Edgar. And interesting that you mentioned policy at the end. Fantastic. That's very important. We're now going to look at some of the elements or parts of the jigsaw puzzle of the places where we spend most of our time, our buildings. I want to first introduce our panelists. Firstly, Oscar Storm. Oscar is a veteran of the glass industry and who works with architects. He currently oversees technical marketing at Saint-Gobain Glass for the Swedish and Norwegian markets. And he wrote the book, Designing Glass Facades for Near-Zero Energy Buildings. Arnaud Marquis is Chief Sustainable Officer or Sustainability Officer at Tarkett, a French multinational, specialising in flooring and sports surfaces. He is passionate about reducing greenhouse gas emissions and oversees the innovation programmes for the circular economy. Arnaud is a graduate of Grenoble Engineering School and held an executive MBA from EM Lyon Business School. And last but not least is Per Klemens. Per is an economist and a partner of Material Economics. He has been the lead author of several high-profile international reports, including The Circular Economy, A Powerful Force for Greenhouse Gas Mitigation, Industrial Transformation 2050, Completing the Picture, and the landmark New Climate Economy Report. What about them? Anyway, you've got that. Firstly, can I ask you all, any reflections on what our keynote speaker, Edgar, actually said? Who would like to take that? Any thoughts?
I'm very happy to jump in there, and thank you very much for that introduction. And it's a fascinating thing when you think of the built environment. So first of all, I should say, in the study we have conducted, one at the EU level, one more globally, we find exactly the same things. We're talking about, very often in climate terms, we talk about what's the gigaton opportunity, what's something that can be really big, what's something that can reduce emissions very, very substantially over the next decades. What we're talking about here is because the sort of reducing emissions by 1/3 for the imprint of new construction and refurbishment is to the tune of up to 2 billion tons of CO2, depending on how you talk about this, right? And we found exactly the same in the studies you just mentioned. And it's a fascinating reflection that we've had now for 40, 50 years an intensive discussion, quite rightly, I should say, on the energy efficiency of buildings and how we can make sure that buildings don't use energy that we don't need in order to be comfortable, in order to have lighting, in order to live well. But we have not thought really to the same extent about the materials footprint, and yet it is a very large one. So it's high time that the built environment got a second leg to the climate debate, not just energy efficiency, but the materials efficiency and how the building stock that will be with us for decades becomes, we get as much value as possible to what we put into it. So can only confirm that we see exactly this.
Thanks, man. Oscar, let me turn to you. I mean, lots of people may they don't think much about glass. I mean, they open windows, they maybe wash them when they're a little dirty, and so on. But you're an expert on glass, and I know you're an expert on also the facades of buildings. Where's the circularity story in this? Give us an idea.
Well, the circularity story, I was going to say that, connecting to Edgar, that the structure of the building is getting lighter and lighter, and the metal in the frame is being recycled, and also that we use wood in the buildings, also tall buildings in Sweden. So the structure is set, maybe like in new buildings, the facade is like 30% of the carbon footprint of the building. And the glass is the most important factor for the carbon footprint in the facade. So we need to go circular, not only because of the energy use of producing glass, but also because we're running scarce of sand, we're reaching peak sand. So in 40, 50 years, the glass age will sort of be over because we don't have any sand left to produce glass.
That's amazing. I mean, the idea of peak sand is just a fascinating concept all on its own. Let me turn to Arno now. I mean, Arno and I talked a little bit about him coming on the show last week, and I was listening to some of the things that he said, and I mean, Tarket, the company he works for, is doing everything possible to make the materials, the flooring that they produce very sustainable. But they have another kind of vision, which is to actually bring back end-of-life flooring into the system. And when you sit back and think about that for a second, in buildings that could be there for 30, 40, 50, 60, God knows how many years, the whole process that. So give us a little glimpse into that circularity, how you envision to bring back the materials when you lay them, when you put the floors in, but at the end of life. This was really interesting.
Yes, you raised very good questions. And so it's true that today Target manages circularity across all countries, but I would like just to say that we started small, we started local, and that this journey took some time. So in fact, it started about 6 years ago when our team in Sweden decided that there should be no waste leaving their factory. And it was a new way of thinking in the 50s. There was no one to tell them how to proceed. And they discovered that they had to adapt their existing processes or even develop new ones. They had to change their part recipe so that it could be recycled and also contain the recycled element. So you see, it's not as simple as it might sound. So, however, this work was very useful. They have acquired a lot of knowledge that afterwards we spread in our company, so that today, step by step, circularity principles become part of our culture. So, as you said, today, Target is working in order to bring back waste from outside the company, from our customers, because this was the second stage of our journey. We wanted to apply exactly the same principle. Attack and make sure that the waste of our clients generated when they install our floors can also not be sent to incineration, but bring back to our factory, to our recycling center. Because if you think about unused people, for instance, or new schools, new universities, in fact, when professional installers lay on the floor, they generate between 5 and 10% of waste. And as I said, very often, at least today, it goes either to landfill or to incineration, and therefore emit greenhouse gas. So while we know how to recycle them, so that's the point. So we have investigated the best way to take back these good materials, and we came to the conclusion that we had to develop our own specific program to take it back into our recycling centers. So, in other words, we didn't want to wait for countries to implement new regulations that would force this change. So since 2010, which was the beginning of this Take Back program, we are sending it back to our customers, like professional installers or construction companies, at the place where they work. And then we pick up the bags when they are full of waste. That's what we are calling the Target to Start program. And we are very proud because bag after bag, we have collected the weight of 11 Eiffel towers of waste since the beginning of the program. So I've
we have been able to demonstrate that we can really think outside of the company and outside of the box and expand the way we practice to also collect this waste and recycle them.
Okay, super, Alan. Let me turn to Per, because Per, it's interesting, we're talking about glass with Oscar, we're talking about flooring, which could be laminates, and could be other things with Arno here. Some of the big ticket items, of course, are steel and concrete and things like that. Do you want to pick up on one of those materials, for example, or maybe think magical?
Yeah, no, and I mean, but in this fascinating, if you look at the steel making industry, optimized, and it's going through its own revolution now, how steel is produced, making optimized system for producing steel, where productivity increases by 7% a year, and you've got a very optimized. But then you look at when we use the steel, and you have detailed investigations of steel very quickly, that will find that actually, if you look at the ratio of steel that is used to the steel that is actually needed to achieve the strength and safety and so on, it's not so. We use far too much more steel. And you can do exactly the same argument can be found for concrete. If you think of concrete as a composition of a binder that you use to make cement, and then you have a certain share of cement to the concrete, and then you have a certain amount of concrete for structure in order to make it durable and have the strength it needs. Again, in this step, we're using more than we need to do, using new technologies, using new business models, etc. And this becomes a surprise. I mean, so this is the question, why is it a structural overuse of something the CO2 intensive commodities there are in the construction sector? And I think partly we sort of touched on it already. This hasn't been focused. It's not something we looked at when we talk about other things. And the second thing, I think, is that the whole sector is perhaps among the last to be digital, to trace its materials, to label and have metrics for seeing how materials are used and so on. And that is now gradually changing, but we need to speed up. And I think it's a huge effort that's needed in the construction value chain, from everything, where from architects to construction companies to the investors that are building the real estate, to the governments who procure, to really put a spotlight on how much money we're getting out of the CO2 and energy intensive materials that we're putting into our buildings. And the answer today is far too little, and we should see this as a big productivity.
I just want to come on this point of digitalization, because it was cropping up all the time during our show. And I know a bit about digitalization and the operation of buildings. I mean, there's a lot of companies like Ericsson, there's Telecom, and many others have been looking at this. But digitalization in, let's say, Oscar, talk about glass, because you talked a bit about glass, but you didn't reveal the other side of the story, which is also generating electricity from the glass on buildings. So give us a glimpse into digitalization and how that also links into this whole generating electricity using glass.
Well, that's a complex topic, but I will try. If we look at the glass in the facade, it's actually part of a system. You think about the window, but the window is a way of filtering the energy. The energy coming out of the room is supposed to be reflected back in the room, so we don't get heating. We don't have to do so much heating. The energy from the sun is filtered, trying to filter it so that only the visible light goes through. We're not getting overheating from the rest of the solar energy, and that has to be integrated together with some sort of you have to look at the ventilation system, the cooling system, and the type of shader that you can use on the facade to see what happens.
Alright. Thank you for the sound. Once again, thank you so much, guys, for being patient with us. So I have a little bit of interruption to get you alive for the last 15 of the minutes that we have in here on air on the virtual casting of Port Paris, which will be going live now on our local TV, that is MTV Kenya. So I request all of us to kindly focus now, because we're going to now be talking to our people here at home. We don't have time, family and you, our visitors. So exactly at 4:45, exactly. Technician, can you switch this off to give this guys a little bit? It's okay, yeah? So. Alright, so this is where we're going to be starting from, yeah? Sorry for that. Exactly at 4:45 to 5, we shall be live, and we can't end this without without our leaders talking to us. So in that order, sasa nataka niongee na lugha nyumbani. Tutakuwa wa makini kwa sababu tutakuwa live kama vile tumekuwa live kwa hivyo kwa TV-Thika Town Today TV kwa Mugi TV all the way from Kiambu County. So I want us to concentrate at least to kapatia kwa hype. Sindio? You know, some of us today are gonna TV, so we wanna use this moment to be sick here. Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. And in 15 minutes, live on air, I'll be giving my 5 minutes. Alright, 5 minutes on air, I'm gonna be giving, I think, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, and then the last 2 minutes, our director shall be ending it. So we'll start with Peter. Peter will invite Mr. Karaoke. Oh, Mr. Karaoke will invite Peter. Peter will invite director, right? Sawa. That's what we're gonna do. So, meanwhile, how many more minutes? We're counting down. So we have like 4 minutes, 4 plus 9 minutes. So we have 9 minutes. Meanwhile, we can continue listening to our brothers from the New York City. I can give you the sound for the projector. Yeah, you have a projector.
We need to trace them so that when there is a renovation in the years, we have the possibility to very quickly understand what's in the product, what are the different components, in what kind of product. So we need all this traceability to make sure that we maximize the use of this product instead of just making.
Alright, let me clarify again. The last 15 minutes we're going to be on air on NTV Kenya, Mugi TV, and 3T TV. And that is when we'll be addressing you now. We'll be back at home. And in that juncture, our leadership, we don't have time, will be talking to us. And that is our team leader, our Peter Peter will be, head of operations, and then our director shall be finishing. So the first 5 minutes will be our team leader who will invite our head of operations. They'll be telling us more about we don't have time. And meanwhile, before I forget, there was someone who downloaded the app there early in the morning. I had a gift for you. So can you come over here? Where is that lady? There was some gentleman who are only on account. I can't see him right now. Hi, Abasi. Since I come, I'm announcing this live. So you have some credit here. I want you to refill it for yourself. Enter our credit. *411. Is it star? I don't even use that. *141. Okay, *141 star. And then hash. Alafu katikati. I'm reading the credit for you. Are you ready? Professor kwa kumekuja weka. Niko hapa naweka. Nice one. 02 03 40 16 19 91 17 97. Nani amepata? Was I too fast? Can I just niangushe? Nani amepata ile mkono? I repeat. 20. Sorry. Umepata? Oh, you got it? No. Oh, what's got it? Okay, let me repeat to confirm. That's correct. Wow, who have to purchase? I thought they are working. No, I can't be allowing to be defeated. So we don't have time. We have a movement that is rewarding. I'm trying to find my brochure. But that's Moira. We are rewarding us. Thank you, I got mine. Thank you. Alright, so I want us to do me this favor. Go to Google, just in case you don't have those things, we got Play Store. I want you to download our app. And once you download it, for those who are not here in the morning, those who have downloaded already, I owe some people. So I shall be honoring you and awarding you for that manner, because for loving us and for coming. And we are Africans, sindio? So nitaomba tuendelee kumakinika na tukue watulivu kidogo, kwa sababu chakula hapa kingi na lazima tule, tunywe, tufurahie kwa sababu leo ni siku ya kusherehekea. Na mjue ya kwamba mwezi wa Novemba tutakuwa tunawaita. Is the time ready? We good? 3 minutes to go. Yeah, it's all right. So, sorry for that. In November, we shall be having now, coronating the next winner. Do you know, Mr. Patrick Kiare was just like you and I, a hawker right at Mokereti. And he took the initiative of sharing love on our app. We don't have time. And when he won a lot of blessings. And that's why today he's our director. Kwa hivyo leo mimi sioni hoka hapo. Ukiangalia chota imesimama. That guy is awesome looking. And you can look at my brother here from Mapa High Boys School, I tell you. We're looking good because we believe in what we're doing. So today, when I tell you to download that app, actually mingi, I have to give it all of it to you. All of this is yours. So the next one, I just get scratch. Na mlikumbusha time ya kwenda live on air so that hii tutafanya kwa live tutaki kuchoma. You know, Wazungu will be like, what are those people doing? You know, yeah. So we gotta be very keen a bit. But I want to reward another person. I have enough of it, and I'll be doing it as you eat, similarly. Though starting Boeke, nawapenda sana. We don't have time. We love you so much. And how many more minutes to go? 1 minute to go. Sawa sawa. So before I go 1 minute, the next one is, we good? All right, sawa sawa. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Philip McLeod, and right about now, I want to thank you because we've been here and we've been celebrating the environmentalists in this country. So up to this juncture, allow me to invite our team leader at We Don't Have Time, Mr. Stephen Karaoke.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Karaoke. I'm the team leader. We don't have time. And we are still continuing to stream live from Sweden. It's the Circularity and Race to Zero. And I want to invite our head of operations, because we don't have time actually, to tell us more about what we have been doing and whatever we have been watching. So, Mr. Peter Kamau.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. I'm so much grateful to stand here again in front of you. I'm so honored by your support, like I had said earlier, and I still reiterate on that. And like you say, You Don't Have Time is a great opportunity for each one of us, like we have it here in our country, on our land, and the land of Africa, because entirely what you deal with is conservation, climate change, anything that entails climate change, and you are part of it. It affects each one of us, like I said. So, we don't have time, we should embrace that. There's an app that we have, that is where you raise reviews. You post your reviews there, that is the Climate Club, Climate Idea, or Climate Warning. Once you get to the website, you're able to download, to learn more about the functions of We Don't Have Time. The We Don't Have Time team here is very much abreast with whatever is happening, and they are moving with speed with regard to what we're doing. So we have reached out to counties in the country, like I can say, Mombasa County, Tharaka Nithi County, Kiambu County, Laikipia County, Naivasha, that falls under Nakuru County, and entirely we are looking forward to taking our ambitions, our visions, and the functions of We Don't Have Time to another level as we move. And we are looking forward to having your support, to deal with you, to work with you, so that we can turn this around. Actually, we're saying we don't have time in regards to climate and environmental matters. We need to turn this around to whatever our ancient ages, whereby we used to have so many trees, we used to have pure and purified air, the air quality was very pure, and that the ozone layer was quite intact, and that is what can tell much about the climate there. So we are saying that we need to move with speed, and like Katarina has said, that we need exponential, by meaning exponential, we need a drastic change. Yeah? We need a drastic change to whatever is happening to our country. So any action, any thought that we want to put into climate Clement, we need to move with speed. And I'm so proud that you're here to give us that speed, to accelerate us, and give us that fuel to move on. Because we are together. Like I say, together we are the solution to the climate crisis. Alright? Welcome. And I want to welcome my director so that he can continue with something.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is I'm Patrick, Director for Kenya chapter, and not only for Kenya chapter, we have been given, our office have been given as the head office for the whole Africa. Okay, our company or our organization is known as We Don't Have Time. We are saying we don't have time regarding our environment. So together, the power of many, like the way you are here, all of you, we can join hands. And if we join hands, we can be that solution. So from today, okay, we work with 3 reviews. One of it is called Private Lab. The Private Lab, we place people that are doing great things toward our family. Like what Wangari Maathai did, and so many people, including you sitting there, and including everybody watching us from wherever is watching us. We are humbled, and this is the gospel we are preaching. We have to take care of our environment, mazingira to ichunge in one way or another, and that way we will walk far. The next idea is called climate idea. Last year I'm the one who won the global award regarding climate idea. Okay, my idea was talking about our country, Kenya. I was not even focusing about the whole Africa or the whole world. But my idea regarding climate idea, I said, it's like we are living in a borrowed future for our generations to come. So I noted, or the idea, it was about how, what if everybody, whether it's a small child, can be the activist, can know the language we are talking about our future. And they start to care about the environment. So that was the idea. I know you guys, or whoever is watching us, you have so many ideas out there. Bring them in the board. And we don't have them in the best platform, which we are using to accommodate our ideas, the big one we can have. Then the third pillar, we call it Climate One. Climate One, we want organization, leaders of nations, individuals, we ourselves. Ask yourself, do you do the best toward your environment? Your environment starts from where you are. Like today you can see we are not using plastics. We are avoiding so many things that affect our soils, our environment in one way or another. So join us and be part of us. In this year still there is that campaign, and this campaign we are awarding 4 people from all over the world. Actually I'm the only one who won for Africa last year. For this time around, we are giving to 50,000 for each review. Said it might be climate lab, it might be climate idea, it might be climate warning. And everyone will win like 2,000 USD. That's like 50,000. It can boost you. It can boost your organization. It can boost the idea you are having to work about. It can even boost your business, whatever you will use it. So after winning that award, we made me ambassador. I'm so passionate regarding environment. So I put my thoughts, and that's how we got this office. Okay, we have social media, so you can follow us. Because of late we are saying the global is like a small village. We are using digital awareness, we are using digital platforms to broadcast and bring this point to everyone. So please join us through our app, which is We Don't Have Time. We have Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, that way. Okay, in Kenya we are located here at Japan Center, 4th floor. Be part of us, join us. We are ready to listen, and together we can solve something. Still, we have the countries here and there, like our head of operation has said. We are still preaching this gospel. This just let's all take hands and what I say, let's be that army back, and in one way or another we achieve. I think that's why I can say God bless you to come, and I think we will continue. Okay, our MTV watch party live broadcast is ending at 5, but our broadcast will go on until 9. From 5 we meet and we celebrate together. Thank you and welcome. I'm humbled.
Thank you, Director. I'm humbled to be given the idea. So the idea I have here is technically we'd like to subscribe to our movement that we don't have time Kenya. And what I urge is for you to go to www.wedon'thavetime and download the app, or you can go to Google Play Store or App Store and download our app. Make sure you're becoming a member. And I'm fascinated by the members who are here. We're so glad to have you. And what my operational manager didn't remind you was in only 4 months, this is a movement that has already initiated 5,000 seedlings in 4 months. In 4 months only. So that is something. They deserve a snap, right? They deserve a snap. You know how we do it. And so those guys who are watching us at home, we are not trying to tell you that we are the best. We are trying to tell you, make sure that you're taking an initiative, because according to the New York Post, in 3 days ago they said that by year 2050, the ocean will be full of plastics than fish. So we need to do something about when you do waste management, when you're following us, and we'll be glad to be with you as a Kenyan who is supporting this wonderful We Don't Have Time Kenya chapter. And as our director has put it clearly, you can also be part of this by downloading. Thank you so much, guys from home. Make sure you're downloading this, follow us on our social handles, and keep on being part of the change, because the change is not tomorrow. The change begins right now. Asante sana. Okay. Now, my people in the house, are you okay? If you're okay, just now. You okay? I thank you so much. So, yeah, guys at home, thank you. You've been using the hashtag race to zero, and race to zero pollution, race to zero waste management. Like, we have to have proper waste management and all that stuff. So, use that hashtag. Keep on being ready for us. And in November, we are bringing you another wonderful event, and we are having another wonderful event. We'll be welcoming you again to do this in a greater way. May I invite my brother to say something from We Don't Have Time. Can you, sir?
Oh, God is good. God is good. God is good. Can I say hi to everybody else? Okay. Hello. Hello. God is good. And all the time? God is good. Okay, well, we won't take long. I just want to take this opportunity, this great opportunity, to give these thanks to where it belongs. Thank you, Patrick, for making this day wonderful. If we were not you people with the team, Peter and Caris, we wouldn't be here. So thank you so much. The president, our just concluded president, Patrick Kiarie, the team, Karaoke and Peter, and the whole team. We don't have time. I can see Anne, you have just arrived. Anne, can you just wave? Anne, we started this with Akina Anne. We have utilized your car, your fuel and everything. Anne, can you just wave where you are? Anne, wow, thank you. Let us just clap for Anne. It has been wonderful to this forum. Then go direct to the environmentalists. We have Ochoro from Nairobi. That's our guy from environment. Thank you so much. We have Tom Boya. Is it Tom? Okay, well, he's Geoffrey Boya from Nairobi. He's the youth leader in We Don't Have Time. Then, all right, thank you, Caris, for that. Katias, visitors from various parts of We Don't Have Time. Thank you so much. I can see Wakiri, you are around this area. Thank you so much for coming. And everybody else who has made this wonderful deal, thank you so much. God bless you. Let us be brothers keeper, and together we can. Together we can, and together we are climate changers. Thank you so much. I'm Michael Kagwa from We Don't Have Time. Thank you so much. God bless you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kagwa. We Don't Have Time is a non-profit making platform. So basically that tells you we are calling for partnerships from other environmental entities, be it UNEP, be it, for example, Equity Bank has been doing a wonderful job in the same. So we call for partnerships. Thank you. Special thanks to 3T TV, Mugi TV, special thanks to NTV Kenya for giving us this opportunity to streamline this and talk to Kenyans. We are so humbled to have this opportunity with you guys and every personnel, just as Mr. Kagwa has put it, who has come here. We love you so much. We wish to see you again very soon in November. We shall be awarding the winner who is going to give the best climate warning or best climate idea or best climate lab. You know how we do it. You download the app, you get many agrees. If you get the most, reaction comes from the head office and you go to win around $250,000 for you to start up what is happening exactly, the funding that we know from the Kenyan side, that is net fund. So that is how we come to a close, if I'm not wrong, on our side. And thank you for your patience at the same time. But I will remind you again, we need that partnership. We are a non-profit making organization. We don't rely on this for us to pay bills. We do this for the love of nature. So those organizations that have the ability to support this wonderful young men and young women in this wonderful hall, and every Kenyan and every environmentalist, kindly help them and support them. And all can happen is having a brighter future. And I think we're good here now. Thank you so much. It is a sign out. Thank you. Philip McLeod is my name. Yeah, I'm a corporate MC. Number yangu kwa Instagram. If I say my number here, well, you know, we have guys from Kanairo, guys like Angelo Victor, we have Geoffrey, staki kwenda kufanya kazi ya giza. Nipate sina simu. Rafiki yangu Westlands alipoteza simu. Forgive me for that. So I think now we off air. Are we off air now? We good? Now we can come back home. Okay, for the guys who are streaming live, thank you so much for watching this. This is Philip McLeod, your host. And keep on downloading our app. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So I see my director. I want to say something. Can you, director? Hi guys, once again. Now, TV Nation. All of us, we receive a lot of feedback, and we are happy. Thank you so much, Nation. Inaendelea sasa kwa wiki moja na DJs tutakuwa nao itafikisha mpaka saa 3 ya usiku. So right now hata najua wengine walikuja saa 6 saa 3 tuko jaa. Sasa tunaweza kula saa watch party yaje. Feel free as wakiendelea kustream sasa. Na kwa nini masimu zenu share as now broadcasting or pressure imeisha. Nice one. Yes, Mr. Kagwa. You want to say something? Karibu Mr. Kagwa. Alright. Thank you so much. That's how work goes. You know, we ever under instructions here. As my wonderful brother takes away the other sound and needs this the sound. And so, yes. Now, can someone call my people from Cascade so they can serve us? Thank you, they are here already. So we're going to go in order. You know, we are learning people. We do this in orderly manner. So you'll allow my VIPs. That's the way it was before. Kinapunjilo, the other guest speaker went. So, we good to sound now? We good? 1 minute, yeah? So in a few minutes, we'll be going with this order from this high table, second high table, third high table, every table is high. So we're going to be going with that order. And the guys, did I say something? is outstanding. This is just awesome, marvelous. So, once again, off air, I will say special thanks to MTV people. Thank you guys from MTV. Thank you guys from Thika Town Today TV. Thank you guys from Mohogi TV. Thank you, Heavy Thinkers Sounds. And thank you, MC Phil. Alright, my number now is 0791 37 37 51. Who knows my number? I give him credit or her? Who knows my number? What's the number of me? Moya, you're supposed to get that. You can't look at me and faint. Some of that number.
1957.
90 what?
19.
Yeah.
37, 51.
Yeah. Ouch. If someone just does a little mistake, what do you do? Just a little mistake. Will you punish them for that? You are one them, right? It is 91, not 90. But I thought I want him for that because he has been of potential to this summit since morning, and he's our youth leader. He deserves this. And I'll be giving something, some bundles, and be a very committee. Thank you so much. So, the next one. So I told you after off here we can do a thing. Sasa, najua mnasifuata kwa kamera tukuna giza. Technician, can you see this off now? Kindly. Thank you. So, wacha tufanye sasa wenzi ufanye tukio nyumbani. Where is that scratching thing? I'm giving you credit. Get ready to refill. A lot of it, yeah? Get ready? Najua kuna mtu hapa roho inadunda. DJ, cheza muziki wa jetu tunakuwa na radio. Music nzuri sasa ila kwa watu sasa ya kukula. We go to some now? Shall we? Mr. Angelo and Victor and Geoffrey, go get some. Tafadhali. Go get some. Right. Steven, you ready? This must be yours. Very easy, like 1, 2, 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, DJ, unachelewa katika kama hiyo. Thank you so much. Ala, tumeweka hiyo watu wakaanza kuongea kidogo. Kwa tatizo waongee. Alright. So, ladies and gentlemen, our party now starts right now. Now it's a party. It was a watch party, now we are not watching. We're partying now. So, before you finish 1 minute, pull a selector. So the party is this. 1 3 1 4 3 1 2 5 6 0 3 5 3 5 5 9. And then my party. Thank you so much. Ushapata? Wait. Nani amepata? Who was going to take credit? For real? Wewe bwana. Sasa when you're disqualified, you're not participating. You can't get twice. No. I am taking the second one. For real, you've gotten it, right? Sawa. Nakuamini. But the Heavy Thika sounds are the best sounds that I use in Thika. And this is the guy. Give it. Kuja kwa TV watu wakuone kungalau. Unaweza kufa kabla tukuone kwa TV, lakini at least tumekuwa tukikuona kwa YouTube. This is one of the best sons of Thika. He's my friend. Say hi.
Check. Hi guys.
Wasalamia kama waitifu.
Lazima tuongee Kizungu. Nifanyeni hivi. Salimieni tu hivi kama niona. Thank you so much. Mimi naitwa Kibe ama Hibibika. Watu wananiitanga Hibibika. Unajua wananiitanga hivyo kwa club? Yes. Ni kwa sababu vitu zenye nafikirianga hata wewe mwenyewe uweze kufikiria. Nikuuliza swali ushindwe. Hata usiulize. Nikuuliza swali ushindwe. Ukienda kwako usiku uwashe taa ama bulb ama taa ile kitu utawasha, giza inaendanga wapi? Kijibu hiyo kujini.
Uko kwa na bedroom.
Wapi? so much. This is what we do. We basically do entertainment services, sound, DJing, producing. Yeah, hiyo ndio kazi sisi hufanya.
Nimo. Huyo ana kazi sana. Ongeza. Sio, Nimo ni yule.
Oh, kuna mtu anaitwa Nimo hapa.
Nimo.
Oh, Nimo.
Huyu.
Oh. Nimemwona kwa picha. Yeah, naona hivyo. Ulize kama
kama yes.
Kama very nice.
Thank you so much.
Can I say my number?
Yes.
In case you need my services za sound, DJ, na pia kama unaweza kuwa unataka hii kazi, sisi bado hufanya. So 0727 673 128. 0727 673 128. Na kwa wale wengine ambao wanatumia ile namba nyingine Airtel 0738 127 197. Hiyo ndio namba yetu. Ukipiga in case utake sound, utake DJ, utake kazi yote ile entertainment services, just call me. Kazi na quality sana. Keep it everything cuz we celebrate.
Kuja. Unasema ila YouTube.
Oh, kwa YouTube kuna channel mbili. Unaweza follow moja inaitwa MC Bull. Usubscribe pale kwa MC Bull, na kuna nyingine inaitwa TV-Thika. Ama TV-Thika. Tuna pale unaweza subscribe. Tutakuwa tunacheka pale pamoja hapo kwa YouTube TV-Thika ama MC Bull. Kazi inakuwa ni safi sana.
MC.
Yes.
Nimeongea
mingi sana. Unanilipa?
Bora seleka. Kata hiyo kitu. My TV people, my Pretty TV people, Mogi TV people, make sure you get some. I give you an order to get some as VIPs. You don't line up. For our streaming people so that they can continue working, I allow you to go get some. Pretty TV, NTV, and Mogi TV. Go get some, eat something, and keep on maintaining it. Since the meeting is still mine, maybe I want another credit. Don't you? Madam Christine, madam? I'm ready the credit for you. Get ready. 99. Is someone feeling it? I'm reading the credit for you. 9990 5987 80 24 19 59. Nani amepata? Na kibe wewe kibe nilikataza. No. Nani amepata? I repeat. Shanda. I go next one. Alright, I told you we are don't have time. We are a awarding organization. And allow me read the next one. Ala. Muku niambia kuna party, kunaona makuli. Ala, okay. Alright, so it's 79 70 97 81 66 95 67 34. I never touch. Kama yeye niko slow, guy. I never touch. Ala, kumbe mnaweza shindwa. I repeat for the last one. Alright. Watu wa Thika. Wale mnachukua tabia za Nairobi. Mmekuwa sharp sana. Alright, so I give you the next one. But this one I'm going to give in a different way. Wacha nikuja penye huko. Sorry, I forgot to do this. Just in case you want to. Sorry for that. Give me this brochure. Sorry for this. I didn't give you our number. Our guests, those who don't have our number. Office number is 0710 330 843. 834, our office number. My director is here again. Oh, sawa. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I'm not done awarding. Okay, nimeweka na credit. By the way, unajua pia business credit. Are you ready? Wait. You are who? Write your name again. Chairman. Joseph. Who? John. Eh? So Mr. John, you're the most beloved disciple of Jesus. Now I want Jesus to show you the grace and mercy of getting this credit before anyone. And if you get it, make sure you tell me. So I'm scratching it. Meanwhile, by the way, don't go home before I reward you. I'm still rewarding you. Namaliza credit niweze kukupatia kofia na t-shirt. Yeah, we don't have time. Right here. This beautiful t-shirt gonna be yours. So ladies, is this navy blue or this is blue? Ladies, men don't talk. Order in the house. Order in the house. Ladies, which color is this? Kaleche, which color is this? It's blue. I thought men are only people who are colorblind. So, royal blue. Kaleche yawa. Kaleche. What color doesn't know colors? Mungu wangu, tuhurumie. Alright, so I'll be giving these t-shirts to most of you. Those who are going to get my questions right. And I'm preparing the next credit for you. So we put the shabeka star 141 star hash tag alafu naweka hizo zingine katikati. There are many. I have a lot for you. So remember, I am your servant, MC Phil, and I am obliged and humble to serve you. So the next credit, sorry for this. The next credit, and you can enjoy your photos. Thank you, Benjamin. Good job. And this has been done by Benjamin himself. He's our photographer. And the she photographer, what's your name? Whoa. She's a media person and she's not shy. Stella. Your name is? Who? Moonlight. I'm a blue moon. Which one? Alright, our she photographer is called Elsa, and her company is called Mirrorline. So if you want services, kama umechoka na Benjamin, wanaume wanaweza kuwa wakora zingine, I know Elsa will do a good job, right? Thank you. We are promoting everyone and everybody. So my next credit, cheki, hata kama kukuni changu, nakupea credit bure. Hayaanza kuweka 9394 Alright, let go. 93945927124099 Shada. Yeah. Cheki, tumewabana. Kweke nisimuzema hapo kabisa. Nyie participation. Ni yeye. Amepata. Chukua simu yake. Akichukua simu yake sitaki apate tena. Watasema tulipanga. Wewe unataka tufute kazi. Alright. You ready? Yes. You ready? I've even gotten a crush there. She's so ready for this. Let's go. Where is my brother from Mako High? Nikikosa kukula. Hii yote inafungwa na tutoki hapa. You know I'm a Luya. You can imagine that combination, yeah? Nikikosa kukula. Anyway, I'm kidding. So, the next credit, 20203, sorry. Sorry for that. 0203 8010 4435 9673. Nani amepata? Haya. Nirudie. Wewe hata bila credit. Benja, hebu weka hii kijani yako. Sawa. So, let me come. I'm collecting your views. Haya, na ule kumeweka. Haya, nasoma wengine. 9091 9091 Amina, kwani umefungua? Sione credit. Alright. Let me know if it's enough. Sorry, we went live and then we got to give you the chance to talk. I'm so sorry. Now you can still talk. See your hands up when you talk. Yeah. I know I call you Shika. Good. So, nilikuwa nasoma. Ulikuwa umeweka gani? Aha. So, nisema pale tuliweke. Anasema pole. Sawa. 8, 9, 5, 6. Okay. Now then you can scream your own. Just scream, you know, whisper. So who has gotten it? You have to pattern. I am repeating loudly. Yeah. Chapata. Na wewe ni wa kampuni. Sasa mbona unafanya ringing? Mbona unafanya ringing? Sawa. Hata hivyo ndo zinaisha, hata sijaisha kwa duka. Oh yeah. Now, so, Madam Amina, just allow me to cut you short for your eating. I would like you to go to the podium. And on behalf of the ladies, by the way, I've not, kama sina lady Aliomba, we've not seen ladies talking on the podium. Please, allow me just have you say something and then you come back and continue eating. Please. Kuja. Nitafuta kazi juu yangu. Kuja. Habib, kuja uongee. DJ, mlete na muziki. DJ, usikule usisahau kazi. Mlete na muziki DJ. Nice. Wow. Thank you, DJ. Karibu. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Amina. Okay, thank you. Special announcement as we continue eating. Please, I oblige you. Please don't leave before we take our photo together. Can I check? I'm saying this is beautiful. Don't leave before we take our photo together. We'll have a photo session. So please make sure we're not director na Peter, na Mimi, of course. I'm also handsome and hot. Forget about that. Yes, I was saying, yeah, we'll be having a photo session right here. So before we leave, make sure we get a picture up and continue talking to us via our social handles, also email and phone number, WhatsApp, so that we can continue supporting each other. And when you have great events, by the way, I don't just come for an event, I come for great events. And those who can recall, I was the host for Anonset Nyambane, the host for Kiambu Got Talent, and I'd be honored to be invited by you. If you have models, if you have talents that you want them to be managed, I manage that too. So my number is 0791 37 37 51 officially. Kalesh, what is my number? 100? Jesus Christ, anyway, I understand you eating. I'll give you my credit later. So, thank you so much. Nimeambiwa kuna free wine. Wewe sipo kai Yesu sio. Nimeambiwa hata sijui mambo nini. Anyway, I know we have other organizations here and this wasn't just a one-man guitar party. Angelo Victor has talked about what he does. He's a great environmentalist. He has said he's an influencer. and we've had that. And Eddie Namchua, don't talk even about Eddie. I need another organization to tell us who they are, what they do, so at least he is equal to your one man guitar. Ma'am, but don't know problems. Yes, yes. I'm looking for someone who's not chewing. Number one, Sasa. Alright, so this juncture, the floor is open for other organizations to talk to us as we enjoy this meal. Feel free, there's some soda, there's some yani, wakenya nini wale. I thought you'd get thirsty. There's a lot of water there. Maji tunatumia glass, so tafadhali kunywa maji pia. Haya. So, this is a Changes organization. I remember Mr. Ben Monga. Alright. So ma'am, let's allow me disturb your picture. What are picture for me? Equal life. So, how are you? How are you? We talk English, man. Jesus, you can get my numbers. So, madam, okay, don't mind your name. Are you Ajabel for real? Okay, I didn't ask for name, I asked. Are you Ajabel for real? So, where do you come from in this country? Central. There's no central now. Which county? How did you get to know about Twitter that time? So you're a member?
Yeah.
How long now?
What time?
But we are 4 months old. We're not talking about the abroad one, the Kenyan one. So this is your sister. Okay, so tell us more. So how do you find the experience? And who told you to have your plastic? This one you pay 500 for breaking the rules. Oh, sorry. It's okay. Hey, are you a politician? One answer, sorry. So what's your name? Mishuki. No wonder, it's such a smart. So, what do you do? This lady.
It's happiness.
Like happiness. Which marriage has been broken? We have happiness here for sale. We can reunite you. Yes. So, oh God. Forgive me for that. Is that my phone? I'm forgetting my watch. Where do I leave my phone? If you get an iPhone that is missing, iPhone 13 Pro, please, it's mine. If you see any iPhone anywhere, 13 Pro, it's missing, it's mine. Kindly bring it, yeah? So I told you I don't do some small events. I do big private events like Obama's and Whiskey. Yes. So, bro, are you hungry? Really? Why? Sawa, wacha nikushike. Are you vaccinated? No. Unaona sasa? Sasa, between food and vaccination, which one is dangerous? So, but I've taken my first dosage of vaccine. I'll be waiting the second one during first November, you guys go get vaccinated. By all Kenyans being vaccinated, we go back to 24-hour economy. So please get vaccinated. All right, and the first t-shirt goes to thank you so my crush for microphone. Just my crush for microphone. Hey, Kenya mnapenda udaku. Mwacha chakula mnaniangalia. You want to see my crush? And my crush will get the first t-shirt. This is small in size, so she has to be a lady of course. I'm giving this wonderful t-shirt to. Can someone shout from anywhere? Who can be my crush? I give choices. Should I give choices? Anna? Yani tushafanya wedding asijui kalecha kuja. Kuja ni kumaanisha. DJ wake wao zilikuwa umeweka ya kalecha kuja kupatia t-shirt ya muda tano. China. Akuja tayari kuja. Ana, oh, this was my kalecha. See my crush. Wow, sema sasa awapenda kwa wasupu. Oh God. Sasa unipatie nini? Unaweza kula fresh. Unaweza kula fresh. T-shirt. Unipatie t-shirt. T-shirt. Yeah. Kaleche kuja, kaleche kaleche kuja. Pelekea mama. Hii t-shirt yangu kwa kubwa. Yes. So it's officially announced, Kalechi happens to be the crush of the day, and she's my crush. I like mine. I am not going to go to t-shirt. This is not outside, this is how it will be. One, we have knowledge. Now, Kalechi, I'm going to say, yes, check it, t-shirt one choice. Check it, see somebody in the church. They say, well, you wear my pants. I'm out in the ground. Jesus Christ. We are alive. Anyway, kwa sawa, bila kupendi bahati. Anakuja Kaleche for a year. Is she beautiful? Can someone say, is she beautiful? Is she beautiful? She is. So Mr. Peter, utambalisha kama nibalisha. Hakuna tosha nibalisha. Alright. So, we don't have time, we are honored. Kuja huko ya kuna projector. Oh yeah. Asmailia kamera. Atajua wewe na tukisikia mtu ako single sikupenda kwangu ni kazi. Aya. Majabu ya Musa aishi Kenya director. Ya bana pasapita tu. Kaka resort ni kiangalia ya. Tuna Selector. Voila. Hey. Well, alright, thank you so much. So Elsa, director anasema aida nifute kazi ama nifute kazi, so sijui atakinifuta haina shida. I'll just marry you and life continues. So meanwhile, as Elsa gets ready for that, Kaleche gonna tell us who she is, what she does, where she's from, and she's one of the prominent leaders in the environment. So Kaleche karibu sana. Director useme mahali simama tu hapa kamera yake. Wewe kwanza na bodyguard. Sawa. Nilikuwa friend kwa show pia. Sawa, karibu.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaleche Lita. I am from ENQUIRY. What I do, I educate young children about the importance of planting, about the importance of taking care of our environment, and I'm so humbled to be here today. This event is so big to me. I was looking forward to be here, and I love what everyone at the Don't Have Time is doing. They are really doing a good job. Planting trees, sensitizing people, going everywhere and preaching the goodness about nature conservation, and big up to the good team. And you're doing a really good job. Thank you.
Wow. Elsa, what do you do in school? Or what do you do, like, what is your profession? As Elsa stay there, I'm going to watch teacher professional. Okay, sorry. Can I check out who people teacher? Elsa Sambika. Alright, Terry. Sasa, najua mimi kwa TV. Alright, so I wanted to interview live on behalf of all of the ladies in the house. So you're going to use that microphone. So like, is it all right? So what is your profession?
I have a diploma in environmental management. I got it from Kenya Wildlife Training Institute.
So what kind of advice would you give the environmentalists that is missing and you feel like you need to bridge the gap by then doing exactly what you wanted to do?
Okay, what I can tell everyone here is
order in the house, just eat.
In Kenya, in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, we have so many gaps. So try to identify those gaps, whether they are academic lacunas or anything. Identify the gaps. I believe there are so many things that we can do. There are so many gaps that we need to reach. Whenever you find an opportunity, whenever you find an opportunity, like the other day I was on TV and I was listening about Kamoki. And I was hearing that there are people who are wanatengeneza pombe somewhere. So that means that place is abandoned. Again, it's a dumping site. So as a dumping site, don't you think of a dumping site? It's a place that hakuna mtu anataka kukaa. Make sure that you take those opportunities, look for those gaps, and try to fill with a project. Sometimes you can look at yourself and be like, okay, I'm jobless. What do I do? Come up with something. Go start educating people. Look for those things that you can do that can keep you busy. And I promise you, one day you'll find yourself somewhere.
Wow. Somewhere. I already found it. I don't want to go somewhere. Thank you so much, Kaleche. Alright, I'll get it for you. I'm still a gentleman. I'll get it for you. Thank you, Kaleche. I open the floor for everyone. Kaleche is branded by We Don't Have Time, and together with the solution, I'm so humbled. And climate crisis, hashtag Rest to Zero. Allah. So ngeniambia tuko na church kama yangu ni everybody. Wow, Jerry, you looking beautiful. Wow. Niko na crush mpaka mdonyele. Thank you, ma'am, for giving birth for such a darling age. So, do we have any other organization that would like to talk to us live on Mongi TV, live on Trinity TV, and all the Kenyans? We're not just in India, we are also out there. I'm still streaming live on NTV Kenya. Is there any other person? Kate, how did you fail to be my crush? Imagine I'm putting him on TV. That guy has taken up my place. Anyway, I'm kidding. So, who else would like to talk on behalf of the organizations? By the way, unajua hiyo kitu mimi nikosanisha na watu na inawanyima chance. Now, get a chance. Mr. Chairman John, you have 1 minute to talk to us as we eat, and then you vanish. How is Kuku, by the way? How is Kuku? How is Mokimo special? I'm just trying to guess. How is cabbage? Now, mkule boga tafadhali. Kuleni boga. Hizo boga ni make sure you eat vegetables. Hi, Mr. John. Unataka nani kuchukua video? Kwa wapi mimi open? Kuja kuchukua video. I know how German work. Alafu weke hashtag Rest to Zero. Welcome, Mr. John. DJ kumbe ulikuwa. Welcome, Mr. Thank you, DJ. Wow. Order in the house. Listen to the speaker. Why don't you go continue by the way? This is how your heart. Yes.
Yes, good evening. First of all, I'm good to be here. John Corey, Changes of Aviation. I used to lead up in Muranga County and based in Kandara constituency. I learned about we don't have time through Mr. Patrick, who is a very good man. Like last week, we had a different day. This last Saturday in Kandara constituency. And when I shared that information with Mr. Patrick, I was very, very, very happy. And also, he motivated us to do that act of planting trees. Because I usually tell people, well, our slogan as Changes of Aviation, I'm the change. Meaning, for example, the talking about tree planting. You can imagine how life can be, or how earth can be without trees. We have seen even the counties which trees have been cut down. How life there is very different. You find even animals trying to search for somewhere they can find that shape. And if you love nature and if you love yourself, then you have no other option but making sure you are conserving the environment. For example, our MC was telling us through New York Post. 2050, the ocean the fish shall be replaced. The plastic in the ocean might be more than the food. So, the act of planting trees or conserving the environment is up to us. And we have no other option but to do that. Because
wow.
Let us live, we should live and develop it, which is better than for example,
why am I seeing an MCA here?
Our MC was telling us what we are doing today is a reflection of future. So future is what is skyrocketing us or accelerating us to live up. For example, I have a daughter, maybe I have children. So maybe 2050, and also everyone wants to have a very, very and you leave a family which actually, adult gender, you will be proud of what's left inside. So, if we do not act on environmental conservation, so you may not live your expectations. Your children, your future generation, they will left to suffer. So, mine as chairperson of Changes of Aviation, I'm glad to be here, courtesy of Mr. Patrick, and what I usually tell people is, can you continue doing the right thing? Kiingia pale Facebook, I'm John Corey on Twitter, I'm John Corey on Instagram, I'm John Corey on Facebook. I was requesting Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Patrick is not there.
Right. Thank you. You said you had see 2027.
Yes. Even the crowd is forcing me to buy.
All right. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are already into the photo session, as you can see. So ukipigwa picha na umemaliza chakula na umekunywa maji na umekunywa soda na umepata credit na uko na t-shirt na kofia, walaya tukienda ofisi kuambia achukae. But we have to pray first. Sivyo? Wewe kuna mtu anaenda kwanza. Asante sana. In the house, we have Wise Tour and Traveling Company. In the house, Geoffrey. In the house, we have Wise Touring and Travel Company, and they've honored our invitation and our event. Elsa, I'd like to acknowledge them. Wise Touring and Travel Company, and I will allow Dennis to come and say hi and tell us where they're located. Yeah, we are about awarding and rewarding. So, and then the next organization coming, the director so, Mr. Dennis, tell us what you do, who you are, where you're located. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nelly.
Netflix.
Yes, my name is Nelly. And I'm standing here on behalf of Wise Tours and Travel. We are located in Kiambu Town. We offer brilliant services, including tours, car hire services. We also have a combined entertainment section. We have sound and live coverage for hire. We also do online platforms. Motor cars. I'm a sound practitioner. I'm a financial consultant, and above all, I'm a pastor. Yes, I love it when I'm doing it that way. We don't have time. They have been our good friends all the way from West Media.
In fact, you mentioned we don't have time. That's all there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing to you the one and only sister to Patrick Kiarie on the pic. You can continue, Alex. Africa.
Yes.
Yani mmejua Balloon Club.
So in the docket of the Wise Tours and Travels, you can book our vehicles for hire through our website www.wisemedia.co.ke. You can book your vehicle there, and we have all kinds of vehicles. And mind you, they are all brand new.
Limousine.
Because the oldest is KTB.
Mercedes.
Yes.
Ish.
You can book them by our website.
You
can call. You can call us.
Mobius in Kenya.
We have tuk-tuks. So God bless you. Enjoy your food and have a blessed evening.
Thank you very much. All right. That is Wise. Thank you, DJ. Ladies and gentlemen, we are having a photo session now. Next one is Mr. Patrick Kamau. have Patrick, Kamau, and Boya here. Okay. Wacha tupigwe na watu ya NTV Kenya. Meanwhile, Madam Nimo, get ready, kuja. My topic on. Let's be more have a minute of talking to us. Peter is like a national academy. Sio, ama nso tunyamaze. Peter iko sawa? Haya. Tutatoka scratch. Alright.
So, hi everybody. Good evening. Kashimbe kamejaja. So, Mwaimu Momoga, aka the Science Ambassador. I'm from Mugambo Amoyo FM and Mugambo TV.
Ala, kumbe nakwanga wewe. Ndio hapo kwa TV sana sana. Ala, Kaleche. Unaona unanyang'anywa.
So, yes, I'm from Mugambo FM and Mugambo TV. We are based in Uganda and welcoming each and every one of you. Nimesikia huku kuna talent mingi. People have many companies, we have platforms, we have issues we discuss. So I really want you to be part of this, part of us since we are part of this. Sinanga maneno mingi, tunashikama kunaweza ongea sana. So Philip, thank you so much, and if we are based in Muranga, so always check us out.
Wow. What did you say you're Amanda? Sawa. Ala. Then I'm going to smile sana wewe. Wow, you know, you can get what I'm doing. What I'm doing. So now we're going to just in case. Don't you? I mean, I'm going to imagine Alright, so the next one is Patrick, Kamau, and Boya. Boya, Kuja, Pacho, our learning friend. Bro, let's kusema 8,000 cubic meters in the ozone layer. What was that? Alright, so let me have Kamau, and Patrick. Thank you, Mr. Alright. So, as the water pressure continues, Mr. Patrick, Peter, Boya, engineer, join them. Yeah. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, PJ, what is much real here? South Africa. And there's more food. There's more food and there's more water. There's more food and water. Thank you. Now, kindly, I know all of us have smartphones. One, I apologize on behalf of Cascade Wi-Fi wasn't working correctly, but I thank God I gave you credit for bundles. Sasa, go to YouTube. We have 2 televisions in this house. Happens to be Movie TV on YouTube, and also Thika Town Today TV, 3G TV on YouTube. Subscribe, leave your comments there. I happen to be a host at Thika Town Today TV, and keep on giving us your support. We are so honored by We Don't Have Time to be given this opportunity to host you guys, and we're looking forward to continue working with you. We bring you one of the most wonderful stories in Thika and we're changing lives. So thank you so much for subscribing. Share our link. Subscribe to people. By the Easter, if it's possible, please. Nice one. Alright. So the next photo, Elsa, you good? Alright, when you're good, I'm good. Sawa. I want to give the next t-shirt. Najua wengine mshajishindia t-shirt na photo, sio? Na kofia. So, if you've received our token, thank you so much for receiving it in good hands. Nataka mtu ambaye ako na pesa nipe gift. You understand what I mean? Nataka mtu ambaye ako na pesa nipe t-shirt. My director, unaweza t-shirt. Unaweza t-shirt. hakuna shortcut. Juu natafutwa kazi nikioperaisha, mimi ndo nakujua nyuma na landlord. This is my direction. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, nilisema mtu akona pesa mkakataa kula mkono. Lakini wote mko na pesa. Si mko na pesa? It's what you confess that you have. The next credit, na hii ni kubwa by the way, next credit. Ni kubwa sana. Hii ni kubwa, imeshinda zile zingine zote. 39. On a serious note, the next credit, 39. 98. 39 again. Wacha nianze. Mama mtoto anataka apate kitu. Na kwa ndalia mwambie tuko sawa. Kata sio MC tena. Ala. So, the next credit, I'm awarding to, I picked the code, and it is 39. My learned friend, Willie. Have you been sir? Thank you. Thank you, sir. Alright, so the next credit is 39, 98, 39 again, 76, 87, 16, 57, 72. It is worth buying new bundle for the whole night education. Which one? Who has gotten it? Even if you want to see, thank you. Who has gotten it? Yeah. I repeat. Slowly. Sorry, I went to a group of schools. So forgive my English. I went to a group of schools. Inaitwa Makwa High, tafadhali. Makwa High School, Boys High School. Makwa Bees. Maquinas. Where's Steven? Maquinas. Where's Steven? We went to a group of schools in Katodonon. Katodonon was our town. And I'm bringing the credit. 39, 98, 39 again. 76, 87, 57, 72. Nani amepata? Yaani Eddie uko na credit mpaka nakupea credit utaki sawa. Hata nimekasirika. Nani amepata? Jesus. You repeat. Nirudie. Ishachukuliwa. For real. Who got that person? Nani amepata? Mbona siwaamini ama nitoka niko na shida? Correct. Haya, wacha tupatie mafuta jaribu. Hebu jaribu pole. Because nani ameweka? Nani ameweka? Siogope kusema ni wewe. Right. So, I hope tumepigwa picha na director. The photo session continues. Sawa. Feel free kwenda kupigwa picha. Feel free. Everyone feel free to go take a photo with our director and I. Thank you so much. Select, cheza mziki. Thank you, Selector. The next pick. Patrick, next pick is Patrick, Caris, Amina, Mike, Kimoto, Jerry, Amina Ushali. Amina kuja. So Amina Caris, Patrick, Mike, Kimoto, Jerry. Wako wapi wapigwe picha? That's the last one. Nahashon, kuja kwa hii picha pia wewe. Nahashon. Kwanza Nahashon maliza kuja hapa kwenye internet. Nahashon. Good job, Google picture. I can't forget you. You've been doing a nice job, and we appreciate it. Good job. Good job. Madam Grace, are you still in the house? I just want to say thank you on behalf of We Don't Have Time. You've been so gracious to us. We really, really appreciate you big time. Sijui naweza kushukuru aje. Our thanks are not. Sorry, Madam Grace. I was saying we don't know how we can appreciate you, but we are really, really grateful and honored to have you as our mom. Keep on doing the good job, and for real, we can't thank you, but we really appreciate it. Sasa hiyo story nilikuwa nimebaki na credit 1,000 ya mwisho, and I honor it to a mom because you should work out. So mom, this credit is yours. On behalf of We Don't Have Time, we really appreciate everything that you've been doing. Hii ni yako na usionyeshe mtu ni yako, kwanza ndio mwambie tuko sawa. All right, thank you so much. On behalf of We Don't Have Time, we give that small token. And German, all right, Elsa, maybe we select. Classy. Steve, I can guess it will be a picture. Okay, well.